welcome to hashtag In Conversation with the North American Association of Indian Students in Canada. This is an informal video slash podcast series where we speak with young as well as seasoned career professionals of Indian origin across North America as well as India. We feel that such interaction can become valuable resources for young Indians all over the world. Today, we are joined by Miss Dipika Damerla. Dipika Damerla is a Canadian politician in Mississauga, Ontario. She is the current Mississauga City Councillor for Ward 7, the neighbourhood of Cooksville, since her swearing in on December 3rd, 2018. Previously, she was a Liberal member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, representing the riding of Mississauga East, Cooksville from 2011 to 2018. She served as a Minister of Senior Affairs in the cabinet of Premier Kathleen Wynne. Dipika, we know that you were born in Secunderabad, Andhra Pradesh in India, and then you immigrated to Canada, completed your MBA, and went on to become a career professional, then a politician. For Indian national students like me, as well as many other Indian origin Canadians, your career demographic is highly motivating. Can you talk about your experiences as an Indian origin student first, and now a career professional while navigating your way in Canada?
Oh, thank you. Wow, that's an all-comprehensive question. I want to first begin by thanking you, Anushray, for inviting me to this podcast and giving me the opportunity to talk to fellow Indo-Canadians. So congratulations on this. Like many people, I came to Canada looking for a bit of a better life to some extent, but also I had gotten married and my husband was living in Canada, so I moved here. When I moved here, it was very interesting. I had done my CA in India, but my CA was not recognized. And the other challenge was that I had done my BCom in India, but that BCom was also not recognized. So when I came here, I wanted to study more, but they said to me, you are a grade 13. So the equivalency that they gave me was grade 13, which meant I couldn't do any postgrad. And so that was very hard for me because I was looking at a future now of no education. But I was able to, it was very interesting. I started to I was in tears with the registrar at the University of Toronto. And then he said to me, I think he took pity on me and he said, why don't you go? What do you want to study? And I said, well, I've been meaning to do my MBA. And so he said, well, why don't you go to the Dean of Admissions at the University of Toronto MBA program and tell them your story and see what happens. I went over there and I was young and naive and I went without an appointment. I just walked in and I was lucky. She agreed to meet with me. And I said, this is my story. I have a CA, I have a BCom, and they're telling me I'm a grade 13, but I want to do my post-graduation and I don't know what to do. And so she, God bless her, she said to me, okay, Dipika, the reason they're saying you're a grade 13 is because your BCom is a 3-year degree, and here in Canada it has to be 4. So why don't you go and do the final year of BCom at the University of Toronto? You won't get a degree because you're just taking the courses. Get an A average, take your GMAT, get a good score, and if you come back with an A average and a strong GMAT score, I'll give you admission into Rotman. So I went away with just her word, no email, nothing in writing. And I did exactly as she said. And a year later, I was lucky she was still there. And I went back to her and said, do you remember me? This is what you told me. This is what I've done. And she let me do my MBA. And that's how I sort of was able to study more, and that opened doors for me. So, I was just, I was very fortunate.
That's amazing. And I'm interested to know that, how do you got interested in politics? And I'm just gonna ask, were you also politically active or kind of connected in India as well?
No, not at all. I was politically interested, but I was not part of any party because, when I was growing up, things may have changed now, and I know they have to some extent. Politics wasn't for the middle class in India, right? I mean, it was out of our reach. You had to be a movie star, or very wealthy, or you had to have connections with the party. So no, I was very politically interested always, but not active in India.
So what got you interested in Canadian politics, if I may ask?
Yeah. One of the things that really struck me about Canadian politics was, as I got to know the system, was how they select candidates.
Mm.
So if you ask somebody, define democracy. So Anushray, I'm going to ask you, what is your definition of democracy? Just take a stab at it. What would you say of a
Uh,
modern democracy?
like if I have to be very idealistic, it's just like a system that like actually treats everyone in a fair, equal manner, right? In a way that like, every citizen, regardless of race, gender, or class, have actual equal say when they actually go out to vote. So that's my
Mhm.
definition of democracy.
So you've sort of hinted at saying, if I may paraphrase, an equal opportunity to vote, right? So everyone's
Yeah,
vote
you
counts
can
the
say that.
same.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one man, one vote. That was the idea of modern
Mm-hmm.
democracy. Before that, you had to be like a landowner to be able to vote.
Primarily, you are like earlier, even in Canada, I would say you have to be a man. Even
Yeah,
like
yeah,
women's suffrage, right? They actually it was later
exactly.
on, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So you're so right, Anushray. Like, one of the cornerstones of a modern progressive democracy is one person, one vote.
Mm,
All our votes are equal. But
mm,
to me, the other side is who gets to run.
mm.
Like, to me, what is the value of that one person, one vote, if who gets to run is the elite?
Yeah.
Right. So the way I felt in India when I was growing up, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
it's like that now,
Mm-hmm.
was the doors to being able to run in an election were really shut tight. It was a
So,
small
so
elite.
so when you say you're growing up, which year or like which decade are we talking about to give more
In the
context?
I moved here in 91, so I guess you could say late 80s, early
Okay,
90s, right?
gotcha.
So, but what I saw over here was
Mm.
the way they give tickets is a
Hmm.
very democratic process because you
Oh,
have the
okay,
primaries,
makes sense.
right?
Okay,
Just like the
yeah.
Americans have the primaries, we have the
Mm-hmm.
primaries here. So
Mm-hmm.
every ticket from a constituency you can contest and say, so you can go to a party, Anushray, and say, I want to be the candidate. So you're in Brampton. So you can go to whatever is your chosen party and say, I want to run from Brampton East. And they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's great, Anushray. Submit your paperwork and,
Of
you will
course.
make sure that you don't have a criminal record and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
then they'll say, well, Anushray, you want to run, but there's three other
Mm-hmm.
people who are also interested. So we are
Mm.
going to have a primary
Okay.
and win. So what this
Mm.
means is you don't have to have connections to the party chief. You don't have to be like a
Mm.
famous person. Like an
Mm.
ordinary person like me can become a candidate. And to
Amazing.
me, that is the second part of a democracy.
Oh, wow.
Who gets to run?
Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
only the rich, the wealthy, and the elite get to run with connections to the party, is that a democracy? And that just fascinated me about Canadian politics. And I was
Mm.
reading a while ago that Rahul Gandhi actually wanted to bring the primary system to the Congress party in India, but he
Mm.
was not able to, right?
Mm.
Because there's so much, I guess he must have run into, I don't know all of the reasons, but
Mm.
this is powerful reform that
Mm.
India will really, any democracy would benefit from. And we're so fortunate to have that here in Canada.
Exactly. I would say one thing, like the difference why a lot of things that work in Canadian democracy doesn't really work in Indian democracy. One is just the diversity in India. Every 25 kilometers, the language changes, right? And
Right, right.
also the population is immense. Like the comparison is it's totally different. So that's why maybe that's the reason. But I'm really happy to learn that. So if you say that if there is any Indian student who maybe is interested in joining politics in the future, for them, it's much easier to run here in Canada
Absolutely.
if they are competent, obviously.
Yeah. And willing to work hard.
Yeah,
It's
of
a
course,
lot.
of Canada.
Well, I think it's very important for the Indo-Canadian community to participate because it's a global world, right? So in a global world, every voice counts,
Mm.
and it's important for the Indo-Canadian community's voice to count as well.
That's amazing. And at North American Association of Indian Students, we are building a community of Indian students across Canada. And as a political figurehead, What do you think about advocating issues of both Indian international as well as domestic students in terms of, let's say, immigration, education, and cultural representation?
I think it's very, very important. I think there's some legitimate issues that a
Mm,
lot of students are facing
mm,
around cost of living, accommodation. That's what I'm hearing,
mm,
and some of them are really finding it hard to
mm,
sort of make their living day to day and study here. So it's really important to provide that support. Canada has always prided itself on being an open, welcoming society. And if students from any part of the world, whether it's India or any other part of the world, if they're coming here to study,
mm,
and it's in Canada's interest to
exactly.
allow those who want to continue to stay here
Mm.
to stay and help build a prosperous Canada.
Curious to ask you one thing that now you have completed 2 years as a counselor. What has the experience been like for you, and what are you proud of having done as a counselor?
Well, one of the things that I'm very proud of, there's a few things. I created a BIA in Cooksville, a business improvement area for Cooksville. So I'm very proud of that. That took some time. I created a festival called Taste of Cooksville, again, to
Mm,
promote Cooksville, which was very successful. And I started it from the ground up. So that was a
mm,
really good initiative, trying to bring forward some mandatory rental inspections to improve
mm,
the quality of rental stock in Mississauga. That's an ongoing process. So these are some of the, I would say, my top three accomplishments. But as I also work, the biggest thing you can do as a politician is, of course, serve your constituents. So
of
on a
course.
daily basis, I may interact with at least 3, 4 constituents every day. So I find that very, very um, interesting as well as satisfying.
That's amazing. Like again, if you find your as a politician, if you find your job rewarding and you're actually engaging with your community, that's the half the battle is won there. So that's really
Yeah.
great. Really happy to hear that. Uh, I feel Indo-Canadians have a significant presence at the federal and provincial level, and with you at the municipal level as well.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the political participations of Indo-Canadians? What next steps do you want or hope Indo-Canadians to take? And what do you hope to see for and from Indo-Canadians in this larger political sphere?
Well, I think the Indo-Canadian community has done exceptionally well
Mm,
federally,
mm,
especially federally, to some extent provincially as well,
mm,
and municipally it's starting to. And I think the Indian community is a community in transition, right? With the different migration layers.
mm,
People are coming now from different parts of India.
of
So
course.
now they
Mm,
have to get politically involved as well. Let's take an example, Orissa, right? So now you have a large established Gujarati community or a
mm, mm,
large established Punjabi community. But if
mhm.
you say, now how many Odia Canadians are there? Maybe, so it's a newer
Yeah,
community that's coming. So my
exactly.
point is that now people are coming from different parts of India,
Mm,
and slowly they will all get involved as well. So that I look
mm,
forward to that. But I think
yeah.
overall we've done very well.
Amazing. So I think when you talk about this, like even like if people are migrating from India, from even those regions where migration patterns were not seen. So do you think this will kind of boast what Canada say it's mosaic society? It's kind of embolden its multicultural policy. Do you think such migration patterns will actually embolden it? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think it's fantastic because India, as you very correctly pointed out earlier on, is a very diverse country, right? So look at
Mm,
our cuisine, like the cuisine from Assam, cuisine
mm,
from Tamil Nadu,
mm,
Kerala,
mm.
UP, Bihar, Punjab, Gujarat. There's so many cuisines, but only some cuisines are well known, and maybe others are not as well known
Yeah,
internationally.
yeah.
Or Bengali cuisine, which I love, by the way. I just love
Mm,
Bengali cuisine, for example. So I think it's a net plus, right? To
exactly,
have that greater diversity. Yeah.
exactly. And I feel as someone who's of Indian origin, such as you, who actually is a community leader and a politician, right? So I feel, do you feel such representation really matters to especially the young Indian student diaspora? Do you think, have you ever had these interactions with young Indians who actually see you and actually think about, yes, they can be their next community leader? And I personally feel that that's true. That's why we are having this conversation, right? To actually kind of put out the message here that like there are Indian community leaders here in Canada who actually you can aspire to be. So what do you think about that?
I think that, unconsciously role models matter. At
Mm,
an, at a conscious level, of course, they matter, but they also matter unconsciously. Because if you see someone who looks like you doing something in
exactly.
your head, subconsciously, you start to think, I can do it too.
Mm,
So I think that's really, really important
mm,
to have people who look like you doing,
mm.
succeeding in all areas of Canadian life. And so, in that sense, yes, I believe it's very powerful to see role models, and that would definitely inspire younger Canadians of Indo-Canadian origin.
Yeah, I think I just have a small follow-up question is, as someone who's involved in political process, are you really, do you feel positive about how Canadian politics is shaping up going into the future? Do you think,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I'm very positive because
mhm,
I think that people are very politically engaged, right?
mhm, mhm,
There is a huge participation. It can
mhm,
always be better, no
of
question about
course.
that. But I think technology has certainly made it easier for people
Mm,
to get politically involved. If
mm,
there's a town hall now and you can just join by Zoom, people are more likely to attend that
mhm.
than if you have to get in a car, drive, and come somewhere. So overall, I'm very positive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I feel fairly round discussion, and we actually like discuss we touched upon a lot of great things. At the end, I would just want to ask, do you have any final words of advice or motivation for Indian students who are listening and tuning in, and who are future community leaders, advocates, and politicians?
I just want to say that you are among the fortunate to be living here in Canada, in Ontario. It's such a privilege to live here and take full advantage of the opportunities. There are obstacles, especially as immigrants, as people
Mm,
of color, and all of that. But don't get discouraged. Keep working hard, and remember who you are. I always say, if you do not respect yourself, you can't
mm,
expect other people to respect you. So be proud of your identity, be proud of your background, whatever it is. It
yeah.
doesn't matter what it is, but you have to be proud of who you are and respect yourself. Because when you respect yourself, other people will respect you. So never forget that.
That's a beautiful note to end all of this. And I'm so glad that we actually have this brief conversation. And I sincerely hope we actually have future conversations like this. We actually like have programming where we actually feature politicians and community leaders such as you to actually interact with the Indian student diaspora. Thank you so much for your time.